This is the video lecture for Word Module 1. I'm going to start out. I have Word open. This is a default document, and I just want to take a look at the screen first, the actual application screen. So Word, every application in Microsoft is got a color associated with it, and Word is blue. So you'll see the blue in the file names. The actual screen itself, this is called a quick access toolbar. I don't know if you ever noticed it. It's got this little thing at the top of the screen. There's a save button on it, and it just gives you quick access to features in Word that you personalize yourself. By default, there's save and undo and repeat. And repeat is a neat little feature. You can repeat items. If you click the down arrow next to it, you can see some other features in Word or in the applications that you can add to it. So I might add quick print. So you see how it added that icon for quick print. Quick print is a feature that you can just click on and it will send your document to the printer without you, choosing certain pages or doing anything. You kind of got to be careful with quick print. Print preview is more what we usually use. And so if I click, I added that to my quick access toolbar, and it just brings the feature from out of the tabs and deep in to right there on your screen. So what you do is you personally, every one of us is different. Whatever features you find yourself looking for, like if I'm constantly going into print and I'm doing things, I will add that to my quick access toolbar, and then it's there and it stays there and it saves, and it's just for features that you use a lot, and it makes you much more proficient. You'll see if you go into more commands, every single command in Word, in every single tab and every single section, they're just all there in alphabetical list. These are all the things you can do. So it can get very advanced, but just simple things like printing, I think you'll find that if you add it to the quick access toolbar, can be very time saving. The top of the screen is called the title of the title bar, and we have the name of the document that we have open, and I have just started a blank document, so it doesn't have a name yet. So we will just see document 1, and then it will have the name of the application that we have open. Of course, it's Word. And then we have the ribbon, and we have the tabs, so lots of different tabs. Each tab has a group. This first group here is called the clipboard. If you move to the right, this group here is called font. So they are labeled. All the different features in each group are, they're grouped together in each section. And like this is called font. So anything you can do with the font, pretty much you're going to find there. If I go to design tab, that's not a good one. Layout tab might be a better one. Anything you want to do with page setup is before you print it, so to speak, will be found there. And some paragraph items you can do here. In mailings, you do start. So that you just see every single tab on the ribbon will have a group, and they're kind of sectioned off into groups. If you probably may have never noticed that. Sometimes we can get a navigation pane. Let me see if I can get one open here. There we go. This is a navigation pane. I just forcibly turned on spell check to show you. So sometimes like another area on the left or the right. I think when we do find it, maybe there's one on the left. It's called a navigation pane. So you may or may not see some of those. They may come up and you'll see there is just a little X at the top right that you can get rid of them. They do take up a lot of space, but they're usually very useful for whatever you are using at that time, a navigation pane. At the bottom, we have what's called our status bar, and every application is a little bit different. In the Word status bar, you'll see the page 1 of 1 at the bottom left and Word 1 of 1. So if I have a bunch of words as you type, you see now I have 4 words. It's a word counter, and you can edit your status bar by right-clicking on it. It can show you more or less the little book there. It's a spell checker. Over here there are some views, and I'll look at views when I open a document more with you. And then zoom. Zoom will make your I'm zooming it really high, 300%. 100% is what kind of normal is, regular view. and then you could also make it smaller. It doesn't actually make the text smaller, it just is pushing the paper away, so to speak, or closer to you so that you can, sometimes you need to do that just to kind of fine tune the details, make sure the spacing and everything looks good. So that's called zoom. Let's open a document. I have a little document here, so we just kind of have some text to look at and to manage. So back to these views here, this is what's called print layout view that comes up by default. You can kind of see, just scroll up, you can see the actual printed page. So I can see the margins here. I have a top margin and a right margin. I have my ruler bar viewing. That's something I always have on. You can just go to view and then check the ruler bar or ruler. See what it's called, ruler it's called, and that will stay on. I like to view my ruler bar so I can see my margins are gray. I can see the white area for the text, and the left, I have the left one on as well. So this is what's called print layout view. I'll just go to read mode. Read mode is another view or reading view. It gives you a 2 pages. This is this, I just have this little 1-page document open, and you can flip from, these aren't active because it's not longer, but you can like flip it. It kind of puts it into a book, like if you had a physical, book in your hands, just like you would read that. And then we have web layout view. When you're creating web pages in Word, you can save Word documents as HTML. They do have a different look to them because there's no margins on the web, so more of your words would be on each line. So if you're ever doing that, you would always want to kind of look at web layout view. I just went into the view tab, and I do see there's outline view and draft view. There's a bunch of different views. So our default, what I usually use is just what's called print layout view, and so that is the default. One thing I wanted to talk to you about was something called word wrap, and so this was already typed for us, but if you, sorry, I hit the wrong button. If you're typing, preparing space for space, a space, like if I were to type this, when you get to the end of the line, run, you're not to hit the enter key. You just keep typing, right? Just hit run, and then you type a space, and then at least. Word wrap is the process of the words wrapping at the end of the line. What's happening is it's hitting the margin. This is something Word does for you. And once you hit that right margin, the words wrap, and the next word's going to start at the next line. So I want to make sure, I find people occasionally that are literally hitting enter at the end of every line, and that is not correct, and that we do want the words to wrap. You do hit enter sometimes, like when I get to the end of the paragraph and I want to start a new line or paragraph, then I do hit enter. Notice here when I do hit enter that there is this space here. It looks like it's kind of double spaced. I just turned on my show hide here, and the show hide is showing me some non-printing characters. These paragraph, this is the icon for like a paragraph. Every time the enter key is hit, I can see that. Can you see in between runners and at and heart, there's a little dot. Every time a space is hit on the keyboard, you can see it just kind of, this is the way I use this a lot when I grade, but you could also use it for just alignment and some different things that you might want to look at in your document. So I hit the enter once here, whoever typed this, and then it looks like there's a little bit of space. Well, what I wanted to talk to you about with that was that it's called paragraph spacing after. And what Word now does by default, and this is something that I take off a lot of times, or turn off before I start typing my document, every time you press enter, Word is going to add an extra 8 points. So let's go into the paragraph section of our home tab here. I'm going to just click on, sometimes you see these little squares with the right arrow. That's called a more button. I'm going to click on that. It's just, there's more options. I have all these things here on my ribbon, but there's a little bit more. So down here, it says spacing. So I'm in the paragraph more button. It brings me up the paragraph dialog box. And it says spacing after 8 points. I'm going to let me just change that to 0 just to show you the difference. And while we're in here, let's just look. Line spacing by default is set to 1.08 now, not single spacing, which would be 1. So it might be something that you want to change. So here, I was down here. You see now there's no space after that enter. I took off paragraph spacing after 0.8, and I'll just put it back on. I have to do 8. And see, now it's back on. When you press enter, an extra 8 points of space is what that's saying will be after the hard return. Paragraph spacing before is the same thing, just space is going before it. So that is a default. This particular document looks fine with it. If you have a single space report, you do want an extra space in between your paragraphs. But more likely than not, you're going to be following an MLA style report, and that is to be double space. So if I have paragraph spacing after on and double space, you're going to have these big extra spaces in between all your side headings in your paragraphs. So I just wanted to explain it to you and show you what that paragraph spacing after does and what you may need to do. This document was already typed. So because it was already typed, I'm going to take off paragraph spacing after. I'm going to select it. I'm going to select the whole document. You can select by hitting Control A, and that's select all. It just selected everything. So because stuff was already typed, I have to select it in order to kind of override the features. If I were starting at a blank document and I was going to start typing my report, I could turn off paragraph spacing after to 0 and then type, and it would be affected. But because I've already typed it, I have to select it. You can triple click in your margin. That selects the whole document too. Always several different ways to do many, many things in all the applications in Microsoft. So certainly if I show you one way, but you know how to do it another way, that's okay. Just make sure you're being proficient and maybe learning some new ways, or sometimes students show me ways that I don't even know. There's lots of features that there's at least 3 ways to do something. So I've selected the whole document. I'm going to go into the paragraph more button. I'm going to take off the 8 points, just bring it back down to 0. While I'm here, I'm also just going to single space the document just to show you the difference. So now I've taken off the 8 point after. So now you don't see that extra 8 points of space after the titles and the side headings. So now, let's just say I want to double, this is too bunched together. I don't want this either. I'm going to double space. So in the paragraph group here, I can double space. You can also hit Control 2. Control 2 will do the same thing, a little shortcut for you. This is a nice, not to say you always have to double space everything. Letters and that other report that we just saw before I edited it, there are reports, and always business letters are always single spaced. There's certain things that newsletters are always single spaced. We don't always have to do this, but because I am trying to work towards an MLA formatted document, I know I have to have 1-inch margins. I know I want double spacing. I just have to take away all that kind of extra. So now I have a nice double spaced document, and I can edit it as I need. So we did word wrap. Let me do alignment. There's a couple things I want to just point out to make sure you're doing it correctly. So word wrap, you don't do the enter. The other item, let's say I want to center the title of the report, something very common. We do a lot of centering, certainly in Word, and I always want you to use the alignment buttons. So anything in this font section or group here has to do with the text. Anything has to do with the paragraph is going to be here, and alignment is under paragraph. Left alignment we're all familiar with. Maybe you didn't know the name of it, but when we do type, everything always starts at the left. We have center alignment here. So it will apply to a paragraph. So because I didn't have to select it, because it's just well, 3 words that are on one kind of line here, and there's an enter. That technically is a paragraph, just even though there's only 3 words. A lot of us, you could just save a lot of time. You don't have to select as much as I normally see people selecting. This is a paragraph format, so when I apply it, I don't have to select the paragraph. If I want to apply it to more than 1 paragraph, then I would select it. But I just centered that with the center alignment, and that's something I would normally do. What I see people doing that I'm don't like and is incorrect, and I will mark off for it because it's incorrect use of the software, is if you center using the space bar and you just kind of eye it. It may be centered, it may look centered. That is not correct use of the features, and you're to use alignment. And what alignment does, the center alignment in this case, is it does center that paragraph, or the title in this case, in between the margins. We also have right alignment, just to show you, and certainly not, we would not do that to a paragraph, but it will just take the paragraph or the text and it will right align it with the right margin instead of the left margin that we're used to. That is useful in newsletters and some different things, in headers and footers. I might right align. And then we also have something called justify. Justify makes your left margin, like we're used to, being kind of flush straight, and it also makes your right margin being flush straight. I've only applied it to this first paragraph here. It is not used in reports, so it does look nice, but you do let the words kind of wrap where they may. Justify is for newsletters and for like newspaper columns and things. You'll see justify alignment. The other item that I want to make sure you understand, it's kind of a basic concept that I see students not doing correctly, is just when your pages break. So this document's pretty short. It's not even one full page. So let's just say if I was typing, you know, something else, I'm just typing, and okay, when I fill the page, Word will move the next amount of text onto the next page. That's called a soft page break, and that's great. And Word will just keep filling it. What I want you to not do is, if I'm at the end of my report and I need to start, maybe going to do the bibliography page, or I'm going to have an index at the end of my long report. If you ever need to start at the next page, I don't want you to hit enter, enter, enter until you get to the next page. What I want you to do is do what's called a hard page break. When you hit enter, 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 it just puts in all those blank spaces. So then if I were to add another paragraph above it, I would have this huge gap of enters and empty lines that possibly would not start the next item that I type at the top of the next page. So I want to force a hard page break. The easiest way to do that is to hit Control Enter. So I am at the end of my document. I'm close to the bottom in this case, but I really could be anywhere. I want to be at the end of it. I want to start a new page, let's say to do my bibliography. Control Enter. It will put what I have my show hide on here so we can see the actual words. It puts an actual code or a page break in there. And now anything that I put above it, it's automatically going to start right after this hard return here. It's going to start a new page. So I don't have to worry about big gaps if I had hit all those enter, 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 enters. So please don't be putting the enter, enter. Let's say we wanted to put cross train at the top of the next page. Not this. Do not hit enter, 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 enter. What we can do is we can always force a page break. Control Enter. There's a couple other ways to do breaks, but that just automatically starts that at the top of a new page. So I will just erase that for us. Anything we want to do with the font is going to be here. I can just maybe just select some text so that we can see it. This will increase and this will decrease. This will change the case. These are kind of cool. We'll change this to all uppercase. Occasionally I do use this. Change it to sentence case, in which case just the first letter is capitalized, or maybe capitalize each word is usually good for side headings. Bold, italic, and underline, of course. If I wanted to, it already is bold. I can tell because it's gray. Italic, underline. I can take them off by clicking them also. You may know to hit Control B for bold, Control I. So that's an instance of how you can do some other things, or no, another way to do the same exact thing. Here's some special text effects that you could put on it with some shading and some different things. And here's some highlighting. Here's highlight. You can add highlight. And Let me just undo the highlight. Some text color, certainly. Some text color. This is very, lots of different things. Just know the wording about things. If I ask you to shade, it is not highlight and it is not text color. Shading is this paint can over here. And if you put your mouse over most icons, you will see a screen tip. So shading is a paragraph feature, and it will shade the paragraph. If I had selected more than one paragraph, then it could put that around it. But shading is going to be a nice way to, it's nice and rectangular here. It will automatically shade the whole paragraph. I also have some borders here. This is in the paragraph section, so if I don't select anything, it will just affect that paragraph. And I can put maybe an outside border around that paragraph. Usually don't use these in the middle of a report, but certainly in newsletters and some other items, maybe around the title. I like to make my resume stand out a little bit, but not be unprofessional. Put a border and some gray shading just around your name and address. Very simple, very classy. So those are paragraph borders. We'll look later at some page borders. So I just wanted to see those. So we looked at alignment. Let's look at, we have bullets now in the paragraph section. I've just typed a few things here. Bullets are little circles that make things stand out. So since they were already typed, you need to list something, then you usually put bullets on it. Because they were already typed, I had to select them, but if you were typing your own list, you could just click on the bullet and then start typing. It's automatically going to indent the bullet in and then have another indent set here. So if it went longer than one line, it's going to wrap really nicely, so it will look good. If you have a list of items that have to be done in order, like maybe a recipe and you have to do this and then do that and then do another thing and they're in order, then what you should do is use numbers. We don't just automatically add circles to everything. Kind of know that you have to put a little bit of thought into that. But each of these buttons or icons here have a little down arrow next to them. So that little circle is great, but you can change it. You can make it look a little different, a little out of the box. I'll just put like a square there instead. You can even define your own bullet and put a picture of your face in there if you wanted, or a picture of a dog or something. So you can pick. Once you change the bullets, if I went down and had another list of bullets somewhere, it's going to remember the last item that I did. Notice that I had changed it up on the first page with checks. And then if I go down and add more bullets somewhere else, it's going to have the check marks as well. So it remembers it, which is kind of nice for that. You really want your document formatted consistently. All your side headings should be the same. All your font should be the same, the color pretty much, keep it consistent. So something like bullets, you wouldn't want square bullets and then circle bullets and then numbers and then all this other stuff. So kind of just keep that in mind, and that's a nice little feature. Here's some indents. Indent is a feature that will move in the entire paragraph. You could select the whole document if you wanted, but it moves in. It's sort of a temporary left margin. It moves in from the left. There's some different features that we use, and I can move it back. But what we want to do usually in a report is what's called a first line indent. And if you've ever done a bibliography, and you'll see in Module 2, we're going to do something called a hanging indent. But what a first line indent is, instead of hitting the tab key, it does the same thing, but I want you to learn to use the first line indent. So normally, because this is typed, I'm going to have to do it manually. But if I was just going to sit down and start typing my report, I would turn on first line indent. And then every time I hit enter, my new paragraph would be indented already. So indent, let's see how to do a first line indent. It's going to be under paragraph more, and right above where we just looked at spacing, we have this special. And I'm going to put on what's called a first line indent, first line. So what happens is when I hit enter, the next line or whatever I type will be first line indented. This is different than a tab. It looks exactly like it, but it is different. So if you have a report that was already done, I need to now first line indent all my paragraphs. This is where you could go to each one and just do first line indent, and keep going back and forth. But this is a great example of how to use repeat. So I just applied first line indent there. So I just applied something, and in this case, first line indent. Now I'm going to hit repeat. Any formatting that you do, it can only be one item at a time. I couldn't do like bold and red and centered. That would be 3 items. But I just did first line indent. I went down to the start of the next paragraph. You can be anywhere in the row in that whole line. And now I'm moving my insertion point to the first line of the next paragraph, and I'm hitting repeat. And it's just going to first line indent. So I can select the whole document and do first line indent, and then just move all of the side headings back. So what's going to happen when you have first line indent on, so if you had it turned on before you typed, your side headings are going to be indented. And all you have to do is just hit the backs, go to the beginning of them, hit the backspace, bring those back. So just learn how to format, learn how to go through, look at all your side headings, look at all your paragraphs one by one, before you're done with your document. I like to do all the formatting kind of at the end, get everything typed in, do a little bit of formatting along the way, but then at the end you can really fine tune and get through that. Another item I use a lot, it's a lot like repeat, it's called Format Painter. And again, we're just going to do a lot of formatting in this class. That's what we do. I'm assuming you can get all the typing in, but we're going to do a lot of formatting. So Format Painter is going to copy formats, much like repeat, but you can do many formats. So let's say I have all these side headings. I want them all to be consistently formatted the same. So you have to apply what you want the formatting to look like first. So I'm just going to select my first side heading, and it's already bold. Maybe I'll make it red just to make it stand out. Not something I normally, would do in a report. And I could underline it, and maybe, let's say I want to make it 16. I'm going to make it really big. 16. So I've applied red, underline, bold, and 16. So I can do many things. You could just do one also. So apply the format that you want all the side headings in this case to look like. Then select just a little bit of it. You can select the whole thing or one letter, just something that has that formatting applied. And then you can click once on Format Painter, and it will allow you to copy that format once. This is a really unique icon or button here, feature. You can double click. So I just click twice on Format Painter, and now look at my cursor, my insertion point. It looks like a paintbrush. So I'm holding down the left arrow key and kind of swooping it across. I'm painting that format. So it's called Format Painter, and it copies formats. So I'll just do that one more time for you. I'm just undoing everything. Apply the format that you want, then select a piece of it, however much you want, just whatever amount, just at least one character. Double click Format Painter. And then I'm holding down left mouse key and clicking, or I can go in the left margin and just point at that row and paint. If you have double clicked it, you just have to click it once to take it off, and then your insertion point goes back to normal, or you can hit the escape key. So Format Painter, I use that a lot in Word and a lot in Excel. And you could use it in PowerPoint as well if you needed, but PowerPoint's pretty easy to consistently format on its own. Next item is headers and footers. So headers and footers are the same thing, it's just the location of them that's different. They are on the Insert tab. A header is information that you type in the margin at the top of your document or report or whatever we're working on. And a footer is at the bottom. I know in my syllabus I usually have a footer. It might have my name, Montgomery College, the name of the course, the semester that we're in, the page number. If you're working in a company or your own business, you could have your company logo. It could be an image. It's not restricted to text. It could be the name of your company, the location. It could be your address. It's just a little bit of identifying information. A lot of times we, see page number certainly. So I'll just look at header, but you easily can look at footer. It's the same exact thing. So there's lots of different They're called built-ins. This one here, you just look at the image. It says type here, type here, type here. So what it's going to do is give you 3 fields or placeholders that you can type text into. And it's going to have one at the left, one in the center, and one at the right. There's lots of different formatting. These are linked to the different design themes, so you can match your cover page. And if you did that, there's an actual cover page feature in Word that you can pull document properties and things. So they get a little bit fancy. Like this here, this one's called Integral. It will pull the document title out of your properties. So you could use one of these fancy ones. I usually just go into Edit Header, just give me the blank header. So page number would be certainly something I would put. And a page number I want to do, let's just say at the top right. So see, I can see the picture here. This is at the left, this is at the top center, this is at the top right. So one way to insert a page number. We're going to work next module on a MLA styled report. And in an MLA styled report, you're going to type your name and then a dash or a space and then the page number. So I've just added my last name. I wrote Meriday and then 1, and the 1 comes up. Never type a 1 in a page number. Always use the code because it will automatically update. This is page 1, and on page 2 it will say page 2. And then one of the things that we normally do, no matter what kind of document or what kind of formatting, we don't have any headers or footers on the first page, particularly in reports. So to remove the header, I have to put it in just to have it on on the pages, but then I just tell Word that I don't want it on the first page. And how I do that, notice that when I'm in header, this brand new tab came up. It's a contextual tab, and it only comes up when you're in certain things. So right now I'm in the header footer. And so this is the design tab for header footer. When I click out of that, it goes away. But when I'm in it, it comes back. So anything at all that I want to do to that header, I can do in this contextual tab that comes up. When I'm in a table, that you'll see it will come up. When you insert an image, you may have noticed this kind of extra thing. So anything I want to do, I can do there. I could also right click and use quick menus a lot. But just so you know, these come up and you can do anything. To remove a header or footer or both from the first page, you just choose different first page and then just leave it blank. For some reason, if you wanted to put something else there, you could, but the first page is now different, and it's different because it's blank. So I'll just click out of or close my header footer. First page is blank. Now let's go down, but we did put my last name and the page number on page 2. Now I don't have a page 2, so I'll just force it. Notice on page 2, my name and the page number is going to be there, and then it'll say page 3. If you type in a 1, it's going to say 1 on all the pages, so do use that page number code and use it correctly. Couple fun little formatting things here on the design tab. We have all the way to the right, we have a watermark. Watermarks are, I use them a lot. I get a lot of documents with them. They're easy to remove or to apply. So you need to know how to apply them and take them off. You can just hit remove watermark. That's how you remove it. You can use a word or an image. You can go to custom watermark, write your own word. Here's just a couple that come up with it. Something like confidential, do not copy. I see draft a lot. I'll be working in a group of people and we're working on a report or working on some new guidelines or something. And as we send it to, it's a draft. It's not, final until we vote on it or until we make some final decisions. So I could have, draft, the word draft on it. This here is just confidential. So it's just telling me when I receive that document, it's a lightly shaded word, or it could be an image. Sometimes people put their company logos on their invoices or something. It's just called a watermark, a lightly shaded image. It does print. It prints lightly shaded. You can change the colors and things, but it's just a nice way to put some text. I'm just going to remove it in your document. Page color is kind of fun, but it doesn't print. This is used mostly I use it for like flyers or birthday invitations or newsletters or something that you're going to email to people so that they can see it. It doesn't print. It's good for web pages too. If you design web pages in Word and save them as HTML, You know, a lot of web pages certainly have a color background. So page color, only if you email it. When you go to print it, let me just make it blue and just to show you. And when I go into print, this will give me a print. It does not print. So you don't have to worry about, if you ever do use page color, you don't have to worry about, you know, using up all your ink in your printer, because that would be a lot of ink. And then we have something called page borders. And this is, we looked at paragraph border before, but this is for the page, and it will put a line, a border. I'm just going to choose box. You can change the color. Maybe I'll make it red just to match my side headings, which isn't very professional. I wouldn't do this in an English report, but just to kind of make it stand out so you can see what I'm doing. And I'll hit OK. So a page border actually prints within the margins. So you can see I have 1-inch margins, and you can see that that is printing with, so it doesn't affect your text. Your text is still going to be nice and aligned. Your paragraphs, you know, should be, have already been formatted, and they're nicely aligned. And that is a document format. So every page will have that on it. There's ways to put section breaks in and things to, if you only wanted it on a certain page. But I like a thin page border, you know, maybe on my resume, just to kind of make it stand out a little bit. And to take it off, you can just hit none. So always know how to put something on and take something off, I think, is a good thing to know. Sometimes I get documents and it's like they have a watermark, and, you know, you just have to know how to take it off. So when we're learning to do something, or you know how to do something, I kind of never thought about it, but you need to also learn how to remove it. And a lot of times it's just the same thing. So the last thing in Module 1 I want to talk to you about was something called word art. And word art is so silly. I think it's fun, and it's, you know, just kind of cartoony. Something we've been using probably since we were little, if you've ever used it. But it can be really professional. So that's a nice thing about it. But particularly if you're doing newsletters, flyers, you could use it in a report. Word art is under Insert. And then I'm going over to my text section. It says word art. My layout, my view might be a little bit different than yours. But basically you pick one of these that you like. Now you don't, just the style of it. You don't have to love the color. Maybe I don't want it blue. Or you can convert. It's actually an object that you put into your document. Okay, I just messed mine up. I should have been at the top of my document. It's going to go wherever your cursor is. I'm just moving it now. So this is an object. Just like if I inserted a picture, maybe you can convert your title too, but runners, this report is about running. So let me just kind of move this, give myself some room. So it's an object, you can move it around. And then I don't remember what my title was. I'll just write running tips. So it's the formatting of the words. So it can look nice. Don't be too, you know, splashy with it. And I would maybe put it on my resume, but on a report or definitely on a newsletter. We do get when it's selected, we do get a contextual menu that comes up. And so we see a format item here. And what we want to do is click on that, and then anything we want to do with this, we can change. So this is the shape. It's just a rectangle shape, but this is for the style of the text. I'm probably going to, you know, change it to red to match. So I didn't select it, so I have to go. I could go back and change the styles too. But I made it red. So just the actual, you know, the borderline, the shading that was already there, it was blue. I didn't want blue, but I more looked for what the kind of the style was, and then I can make some editing changes to it. So that's called word art. You could do a lot with it. There's some fun little shape effects and, you know, some different things you could play with. But to be professional, I mean, I probably just keep it, you know, horizontal. And you can wrap text around it in some different things, but it's a nice little, it's kind of a simple feature. It can make it a little bit more professional. So that's all that I'm going to cover on this in Word Module 1. So hope you learned something.